Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Two Broke Gamers podcast. I'm Steve.
I'm Ricky.
And this is episode 49, I believe.
Yeah, 49.
It's crazy.
Yeah, so let's get into this. We want to start off with a separate section of the show, post E3, things that we may have missed, tiny little things, and everything of the afterthoughts and follow-ups from companies. Mostly Nintendo, because Nintendo messed up really badly, and they kind of had to explain a few things. Yeah, it was kind of bad. So let's jump into it. So one thing that we missed from the Sunday of E3, day -1, I guess you should call it.
-1.
Yeah, no, it's strange. I mean, E3 is really 2-3 days, but it doesn't start until Tuesday. But people do things Sunday, Monday. I don't know. It's their thing. They do that. So we missed on Sunday, because it was just stealthily released that there's an app on the eShop on the 3DS. So where if you don't own the Smash Bros 3DS game, you can actually buy this app for $1, and it's called Smash Controller. And it basically is your controller for Smash on the 3DS. So I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, it's a thing. Apparently, it's popular. People want to use their 3DS controller for Wii U. I didn't know that was a thing, but it's a thing apparently.
I don't know. I'm still GameCube.
Yeah, that's the same way. GameCube, maybe even the gamepad, but that's about it. Gamepad just to dick around.
No, not even.
Yeah.
GameCube all the way.
Now, another thing we missed on Sunday, too, I thought we brought it up. I don't remember, actually, and I didn't have enough time to backtrack and see. But Earthbound Beginnings came out that day as well, later on that day.
Yeah.
I think it came out at 9 o'clock Eastern time here, 6 o'clock Pacific. But basically, it came out on the eShop, Virtual Console, where you basically are playing the first Earthbound for NES, which is called Mother. Yeah.
Mother.
And, here's the funny thing about that game. It was fully translated. It was going to come out in the U.S. as, I believe it was going to be called Earthbound, I believe. And it was never released because by the time they translated it and everything, the Super Nintendo was about to come out. So they figured, why lose out on money on this? So they decided to skip on the game and use Earthbound from the second console.
But then it screwed everything up. I was like, because if you and I were discussing this, I was like, how are they going to release? Because this was in talks for a little while. Like, how are they going to release this? What are they going to call it? Earthbound's already a thing. You can call it Earthbound Zero. Like, what are you going to call this?
That was
Earthbound Beginnings is actually a really good way to do it.
Earthbound Beginnings is. But there is complaints because the controller scheme for this game itself, in particular for the NES, was not the greatest version of it, where the controls are kind of weird, and that's one of people's complaints, which is why people in Japan prefer the GBA version, the re-release of it, because the control scheme was actually fixed. But, I mean, it's out there. If you want to try it, you want to play it, it's there.
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting for Mother 3.
That's the thing. Why didn't they just announce that? I don't know.
What would they call that one?
Earthbound Endings?
Earthbound Endings. But that means it's over. There's no chance at another Earthbound game.
Well, there hasn't been. I mean, look how long ago it is. Know. Well, there is a Earthbound 4 coming out, but that's a fan-made game. Mother 4, basically, but I don't know. I don't know what they would call it. We'd call it something clever, I think. I don't think after all these years of hyping it and talking about it and mentioning it by mouth by the people who work at the company, they couldn't just ignore the fact that they're going to finally release it, just don't know when.
Earthbound 2.
Earthbound 2.
Earthbound 2. No,
Earthbound GBA.
Right.
One other thing we failed to mention, too, about Star Fox Zero, it was also made by Platinum Games.
Same people who brought you Bayonetta.
Now, that's a really cool thing. Now, besides that, the game has gotten mixed reviews, and there's some follow-up with that as well, which we'll do in the second part of it. We're just catching up on everything that we may have missed from there. The Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is apparently a free download, but Amiibo are required to play it. So you can get your KK Slider, you can get your Tom Nook, whatever, but you need one of those guys to play the game.
Smash characters?
I don't know.
Can you Ness in the
What about Villager? Why can't you be Villager and play, that
I
game?
think you could use Villager. I think he'd be compatible.
It would make sense.
I'm sure Nintendo has a compatibility chart on their website.
I mean, they're going to have to.
Well, yeah.
I mean, we need more compatibility for Splatoon characters. I'm just saying. I mean, besides one-ups and random characters or random items for Hyrule Warriors, what else is there, So that's really the things we missed, from E3, the short little mention. Like I said, it wasn't going to be much. But now, a follow-up from it. Now, Nintendo did talk about the Nintendo World Championships. That is going to return next year. So we will have another iteration of that.
Cool.
I don't know about the how big it's going to be, whether it's going to be more than 8 stores, or if they're going to keep the 8-store format, which is kind of unfortunate, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, they had the right format with 8 and 8. I don't know if they really want a more than one day thing, or maybe they do. Who knows? But Nintendo is doing that. Now, the Treehouse also confirmed afterwards, after all that, the Animal Crossing Amiibo Festival is that board game is not the only mode that you see in that game. So it's
not just Animal Crossing Party.
Yes.
There's more games involved.
Yes.
Dope.
So we mentioned this slightly, but I wanted to follow this up as well because Iwata tweeted about the everybody's reactions to the Direct, which were very negative, mostly mixed, very negative. It was translated as, "Thank you for watching. We take opinions of this year's digital event seriously and will work to better meet your expectations." Which some people, for some reason, took that as like, we're sorry, our bad type of thing. Where even like Reggie had to mention it. Reggie said, "Look, Iwata did not apologize. We make great games, honestly." It was not an apology. It was not a statement about the content we're showing. Essentially, it was a "I hear you" message. Mr. Iwata's in Japan, and what he's trying to do is help explain to consumers in Japan what's going on at E3. The correct translation of the message was, "Thank you for your feedback. We hear you, and we are committed to continuing to meet your expectations," was essentially his message.
Continuing to meet whose expectations?
And people's?
You didn't meet my expectations.
He didn't need a lot of expectations. Now, there's a follow-up, especially the Metroid Prime Federation Force, which people, you're already rolling your eyes. I already see it. One of the things I find interesting is that if you look at the E3 history for Nintendo, typically what happens is a press briefing happens or a digital event happens, and then over the course of the next couple of days, people see the games, get to play the games, and the appreciation of understanding what we're doing increases over those 3 days and continue to build into the holidays. I don't know if they really got that with that. Well, they talked about Splatoon, and that's why people are loving it and all this stuff.
Splatoon also doesn't suck.
We don't know if this game sucks.
Stop it.
We don't. Did you play it?
No, I didn't play it.
Exactly.
But don't throw a Metroid title on it if it's got nothing to do with Metroid.
But that's where people are upset with, and I'm saving this for the discussion part as well because it's just so odd that they just throw a name on something that could be kind of related. Because for rumors that we're reading that they may be connected to Metroid Prime 4, which is also mentioned like post E3, which is kind of like, why didn't you mention that to begin with? Maybe a lot less people will be angry, and there wouldn't be a petition for trying to shut down the game, which is also like, really?
Which is a thing.
Yes, it is a thing. We'll get into that later too.
You don't want to shut down the game. Just just don't call it Metroid.
Blast Ball would have been good enough, and they did that.
Or you could just call it because there's two in one. There's the
Federation Force.
The Federation Force and Blast Ball.
Mm-hmm.
Just call them that. Just call them what they are. Don't throw Metroid Federation Force. No, just call it Federation Force. Well, Metroid Blast Ball. Don't just call it Blast Ball.
At least with Zelda, they kept the characters. Like Metroid doesn't. Samus is not even in the games. Either one of them. It's like
exactly. It has nothing. Like it might have to do with the
universe.
Metroid universe, but it's got nothing to do with Metroid as a fucking series.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's adding anything to it yet. I mean, we haven't played the game and see where the story went, but so far it's still like you see here. People have negative things to say about it.
As a Metroid fan, I hate it.
And I mean, it's funny too because people have basically rearranged Nintendo's E3 to where it could have been better. And basically, it's like we talked about where they should have saved some things from the Direct from earlier the month to the stuff on Sunday. They should have had all that in one day and took out some things that really weren't necessary. And just, everybody's on the same page of what Nintendo should have done. And it's just Nintendo just dropped the ball this year. We talked about that constantly, especially when it comes to Zelda Wii U, which another point I want to make, and it also involves not just Nintendo, but the E3 as a whole. Reggie's quote about it, mind you, this is why Zelda Wii U wasn't going to be at E3. We just fundamentally don't believe in showing content at E3 that's going to be a long-term proposition. We like to show content that typically will launch in the upcoming holiday and maybe extending into the first half of the following year. At this point, the new Zelda Wii U is not a 2015 project. Now, here's the thing.
We knew that already, though.
Yes. Now, the thing is, Sony won because they showed a ton of games that are happening next year, including Final Fantasy. And Final Fantasy, we actually don't even know when that's going to happen, mind you.
Yeah, they never released it. It was just like, hey, here's a hype thing.
Yeah, exactly. And it got people's attention. Even the other game, the Horizon Dawn?
Horizon Zero Dawn.
Yes, Horizon Zero Dawn. That game is really hype, and that's for next year. A lot of games were going to be out next year from the other companies, and Nintendo actually had the balls to say, look, we have everything for this year. That's it. We have everything for this year, and this is what's coming out, which is good because now you know what's coming out this year. But apparently people didn't want that. People want really good-looking games that's going to come out eventually, not this year.
I want to know what I have to look forward to.
Yeah. And people were looking forward to that game, to Mass Effect, to basically every game, looking at all the E3, basically everything that's going to happen in the future. The future would be this year, yes, but some things that are not going to be coming out this year were really hype, apparently. So, I don't know. And speaking on that too, Tetsuya Nomura talked about from Square Enix talked about remaking Final Fantasy VII. Also, we come to find out too that this thing was a known secret. Like apparently they knew they were gonna make Final Fantasy VII and Shenmue, and they're at least gonna announce them this year. And they knew it for a year at least in advance to do that. It's like trolls. You trolls, you knew it the whole time.
Good at keeping secrets.
Yeah, unlike Nintendo. Everything was leaked before that, mostly anyway. Hyrule Warriors and the stuff that was going to be in Smash Bros. Like, everything was leaked already, which also, I think, added to the unhype of Nintendo this year. But continuing with Final Fantasy VII, Nomura actually talked about the other Final Fantasies where he said that he wants more remakes, where he even considered the one that I really want and one that hasn't been, like two of them basically that have not been remade yet. That was Final Fantasy VI and Final Fantasy V are the only two that are missing, which 6 to me is one of the greatest Final Fantasies ever. That was like my favorite ever. I actually played 6 after 7, where people were like fanboying over 7 and everything. And I love 7 too, I'm not going to lie. But 6 was amazing to me.
From someone who doesn't follow Final Fantasy, what I get from listening to people who talk about Final Fantasy is that 7 is like the favorite fanboy game, and 6 is actually just the better game.
Mm-hmm. And I would really love to see Final Fantasy VI remade, I don't care, in 3D graphics or even cool. in pencil animation, something, but I know it would be an amazing game. But
pencil animation?
Yeah, like, really, like, artsy, drawn, like, because it's a very, like, the art style of that game, even from the instruction manuals, is very, like, artistically, like, watercolor, like, art, which I would be really interesting to see. If not, then maybe they go with the realistic sense with Final Fantasy VII, go that route. But the game has its quirks too. Like even Final Fantasy VII has its quirks, like like the horror house. It's basically a horror house, and other things where they have quirky little side stories. Like you fight a freaking train in Final Fantasy VI. Like it's just so random. And then there's the opera house scene that you have to recreate too, and it's so many great things that you can do with Final Fantasy VI. Even though the one thing I would say, if they were going to remake Final Fantasy VI, make the boss harder. That was my one complaint. I mean, Sephiroth was just freaking tough. It took a while to beat him, but when you came to Kefka at the end, it was one of the easiest boss battles I ever fought in the whole game. It's like, really? That was anticlimactic. It was still a good game, but it was like that boss fight sucked.
I don't know. I never played it.
Yeah, I know.
But I know people tend to love Kefka. I hear people say like they love Kefka. So hey,
he was a really deviant boss. I did like him actually. He was actually more of a star in that as an enemy in that game than even Sephiroth was in Final Fantasy VII. But he was more mysterious, I guess, in a way. So Sephiroth wasn't really like, they showed the highlights and they showed the history, and then you don't see him until the end, basically. But meanwhile, Kefka was like throughout the story. He was here, there, and everywhere. So I don't know. That's my Final Fantasy rant. Another thing about Shenmue. Following up with it, it's like smashing records. Actually, it did smash a record. It's actually the the second fastest Kickstarter project overall. It took it raised like $1 million out of the $2 million in history. Let me see. 1 hour. Let's see. It raised $1 million in 1 hour and 42 minutes.
Damn.
Yeah. And I mean, it's way past its goals. It's like past 3 million. And I don't even know what it's up to right now. I could probably even check it. But yeah, I mean, damn. It just in just a few hours, it's already there. And funny enough, the person who created the game talked about making more, because apparently there's like more chapters, and he wants to make all the chapters. So that might extend to a Shenmue 4 or 5. So we'll see what that goes.
Apparently, if they make enough money off of the Kickstarter for 3, maybe you can roll some over, plus profits from 3 to make 4.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. Especially the fan base is there. I mean, the fan base is there. Like, you can't deny that. So if you want to continue the story and people want to play it and pay for it, why not? I don't see a problem with that at all. And then finally, from E3, they have announced the date of next year's E3, June 14th to 16th. So mark your calendars. Haha. No, we're going to forget until like May and go, oh, E3's coming. We're not going to remember this. Like, really?
Isn't it always June 14th to 16th?
It's June something. That's all I ever know. It's like, it's June at some point. I don't know. And then Evo comes up in July. That's how I remember things. I'm weird like that. But that was basically...
Awesome.
Yeah, that's true. And that's basically it for our E3 follow-up. Stay tuned for our other part where we talk about... we have the discussion and talk about the news and the consoles and all that good stuff. So stay tuned.
Che.